From this property, I made $18,695,000, and it's still one of the biggest mistakes I've made. And this mistake is what led me to the business model that I have today. So when you're looking for real estate, you're looking for a value add. You're looking, how do I buy something, refreshen it, and make it worth more? This is a great example of a property that my partner and I bought on the left, and then you can see the improvements on the right, before and after. So this is just one of the many strategies that you can use in real estate investing, and this one is called a condo conversion strategy. So I did it once in a fourplex, and just to be simple math, I bought a fourplex for $600,000 or $125,000 a unit, and I condoed it. In other words, I sold them off one by one, so I sold all four for $250,000. So I bought it for $600,000 and sold it off for about $1 million. You can do the same thing with office buildings, and you see this a lot of times in medical office, where a developer will build a series of office buildings, maybe 4, 6, 7, 8,000 square feet in one big office complex, but they're largely individually owned. Those are called office condos. In this example, this is a 301-unit apartment building that I bought, and the goal, of course, was to sell it off individually as condos. So on the left was a rental property of 301 units. On the right is a for-sale condo product. Very different, but also change of use. In the middle, rehab, legal, sales, a lot of stuff to do there. But essentially, it's taking something and changing the use of it and making more money here. So here's the deal. We bought the rental property for $30 million, and we figured that we were going to need about $10 million worth of rehab and legal, putting our total basis for about $40 million. At the time, condos were selling in this market, which happens to be Portland, for about $195,000 on the average per unit for this type of property. 301 units times 195 equates to about $58,695,000, roughly gives us a profit of about $18,695,000. At this point, we decided to do this because this is enough money to be able to make in order to move forward. So inside of this is the mistake. The question is, do you see it? So on the left here is the math, and we already went through this. You saw that there was $18,695,000 of profit, but what you don't see behind the curtain is the cost of the money. So we know that the $40 million was brought either in the form of debt or equity. In every deal, there's debt and there's equity. It's just a matter of what the price is. In this particular case, our cost of capital was about 10%. So 10% of $40 million is about $4 million a year times 3 years, because that's how long it took. It took us a year to get the legal done, and then 2 years to sell out of the project. So that's about a $12 million cost of capital. So hopefully you guys are getting the point here. This $12 million of cost of capital is a cost to the deal. So now you take the $18,695,000 and you add in the cost of capital, because it's not my capital, it's other people's capital. Other people got paid when we used their capital at a rate of about 10%. That brings us to about $6,695,000 in profit. But wait, there's more. Because this is a capital gain strategy, and you guys know the difference because you watched my last video, the difference between a real estate company doing a capital gain versus a cash flow type deal. Capital gains are about 40%, which is an additional expense of the partnership of $2.7 million in tax that's owed, because this is a capital gain and not a cash flow. That leaves us only about $4 million of the original $18,695,000 to be divided up by 3 partners, which is about $1.3 million each, divided by the 3 years, which is about $444,000 per partner per year for doing this entire project. Now, many of you might be saying, that's not bad money, that's worth the risk. And for some of you, I completely understand that. However, let's take a look at what this property would have been worth as an apartment building. The rental revenue would be about $750,000 a month. That's about $9 million in top line income. And I own the asset, and I have the potential to refinance, and I have passive income, and I don't have to work as hard, and I don't have to go do it again. But really, because we sold it off piece by piece, there's no passive income, there's no cash flow, and no tax advantages. And what I did is I just generated one big tax bill for the IRS, and I spent 3 years of hard work for $444,000 a year. And the risks are I had to sign a personal guarantee on the loans. So if this project doesn't work, it goes to me personally. If the business plan doesn't work, I still owe it personally. 2, I had interest rate risk during that 3-year period, which of course could affect the sales of the condos. Luckily, in this case, it did not. These sales went really well, but you're starting to see this being experienced right now. When interest rates go up, people stop buying as much. The reason why this wouldn't matter if it was a rental is because I still had the cash flow and my interest rate would be fixed and I would not be subject to interest rates moving. The 4th one are the rehab costs. So think of flooring and appliances and all those things going up. While I rehabbed this project, they did go up. And so we busted the budget on the expense side as well. Costs are rising, inflation is real, and they make their way into projects like this as you start to rehab. This is a big thing that a lot of developers don't factor in, are their cost of inflation as it pertains to the individual components in doing a big project like this. And the 5th thing is I had to create an HOA or a homeowners association, which included bylaws and CC&R. Then, of course, the attorneys show up out of the woodwork and they sued us on this exact project. There are construction defect attorneys that prey on projects like this, contacting the HOA, which I set up, and they sued the developer, which is us. And of course, we had several years of litigation after that. The irony is I put $450,000 in the HOA account, and they used that same money to sue me later. This was all ultimately resolved and handled by the insurance company. So essentially, this is one big flip. Just happens to be 301 units in one location. What I learned from this is the price of doing a good job is a bigger job. So as you can see, we actually did profit almost $19 million on this project. But after you add the cost of money, the time, the taxes, and then the litigation at the end, we probably actually lost money. I would have been way better off and had a lot more sleep had I just bought this property, kept it as a rental property, cash flowed the heck out of it, and then just time the market to do cash out refis, tax-free, and just hold this property for the long term. This is precisely why we changed our business investment philosophy to cash flow only versus capital gain. To see the video on our exact business model and how it's developed since then, you can watch that right here.